school leaders. I am so delighted to welcome you to Cultivating Learning Communities. And I know that you are doing infinitely important work in this regard and have been during this back to school season. I want to welcome you from all over North America and encourage you and remind you that we're all in this together and you aren't alone. We're here for you. Learn Forward is here for you, and I'm here for you. My name is Kareen Belthone. For those of you who don't know me, some of you come to all of these webinars, and others of you, this might be your first one. We're here to encourage and interact and digest and think about how do we cultivate learning communities. I have three big ideas that are attached to a real main point that I want to get to today. And so I'd like to begin my slideshow here. So thank you for bearing with me as we look at this. So again, I want to welcome you to Cultivate Learning Communities. And we have these three actionable ideas today. Some of you may have had a back to school season that looks like this. It feels like this. It feels dry and crusty and really, it's not a fertile soil. It's not rested. It's not ready for growth. It's really difficult and it's worn out. If you can relate to this, either in your own being or in your school community, again, I want to remind you, you're not alone. This is a very difficult season in the world, in our society, and in education in particular. So let's talk about how can we transcend this? How can we think about it differently? How might we grow through this? Parker Palmer says hard stuff is not a death knell to a community. It is a gateway to the real thing. I'd like to tell you a bit of a story where this came true for me. And it didn't have to do with COVID-19 masks or vaccines. So we can take a break from that. This hard stuff was during a time when I was leading Willowstone Academy. And our facility, we didn't own our facility. We were partnered with another organization. And I know for those of you in public schools, that feels very foreign. Here's what I want to say about that. We had a preferential lender, and without getting into too many details of the mortgage, the lender called our loan, and we were unable with traditional lenders to replace that mortgage. And so we were being foreclosed on, and we, through no fault of our own, had the real distinct possibility of losing our facility. So when you have hundreds of children that you're educating and caring for, we were open 50 weeks a year, 50 hours a week for seamless education and care. That felt like a monumental threat. Losing our facility didn't feel like an easy fix. There were no opportunities to kind of move down the street and find something new. It felt very time sensitive, and it was a real leadership challenge. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. Some of the top leaders from our both school community, our faith community, and the community at large joined together and developed a task force. We called it the Financial Steering Committee. It had to have a formal name. And we were able to raise $1.5 million, which was the shortfall in the traditional lending mortgage, in literally, I call it the biblical proportion capital campaign. It was really a crisis campaign. We raised $1.5 million in about 40 days. It was truthfully 90 days from start to finish, but the public campaign only lasted just over 40 days. So that story is a story to share that sometimes we have these major crises or challenges in our community, and it's not the death knell, it's actually the gateway. And we found that we had joined together. The average gift from every family in our community was about $5,000. And we really had a new lease, pun not intended, on life. So I want that for your community and for your school during this school year. Where does it start? Here's that main point that I was talking about that I wanted to share with you. It starts inside of you. It's about who you are, your inner journey. I sometimes use even the word, the soul of a leader. In that deep place inside of you, your posture as a learner, vulnerable and transparent, opens up your teachers, your parents, and students to connecting in community. So I want to say that again. Your posture as a learner, vulnerable and transparent, opens up your teachers, parents, and students to connecting in community. So learning new things, right? New ideas, new opportunities to think differently and try to innovate, try to think creatively, try to really be open and open-hearted in your stance as a learner and a leader. So here are the three big ideas. We want you in the next month to consider how you can unfold teacher leadership for your community. Teacher leadership is really about not giving teachers who are already overwhelmed more than they can handle, but rather considering the specific strengths on your team and leaning into them. When someone is strong in something, when they have a gift, a talent, they do that thing with ease. Some of us speak publicly with ease. Some of us write with ease. Some of us connect relationally with ease. Some of us are just naturally compassionate, and that just flows from us with ease. So I'd like to tell you the story of a member of my team who was a natural group facilitator. He had come out of group facilitation and into education. So before he was a classroom teacher, he was a facilitator in both youth and adult contexts. He naturally did team building. He naturally got people up and moving. And furthermore, he was a drama major and came generationally through theater arts. His strengths came easily for our community. And so when I started to ask him, hey, would you bring the icebreaker to our staff meeting next month? That was easy for him. He already knew what he was going to do. He had the stuff that he needed in his basket of fun and good gifts in his classroom. So these these teacher leaders have strengths that come easily to them. And frankly, I believe every teacher on your team has those strengths. So we can lean into teacher leadership for community. What are some other ways you can think of to unfold teacher leadership for your community? Maybe it's in instructional design. Maybe it's in leading lesson or unit planning collaboration. Maybe it's I've had teachers lead worst work parties just so that they could get through big and difficult tasks like report card writing. I have had teachers who have taken portions of team meetings, as I just mentioned. I've had teachers lead assemblies. I've had teachers lead events. How can you lean into your teachers and your team's leadership for community? Maybe your classrooms are in cohorts, and due to COVID, you need your teachers to have that community of parents and students where they're gathering them. And that art of gathering, that's such an important art right now. And we have to rethink it, and we have to think about why. My second point for how, as a leader, we can engage in learning and build community, teachers, students, and parents, is to engage bravely at the table of learning. You say, what is the table of learning? The table of learning is, again, all those stakeholder communities combined, teachers, students, and parents, all sitting at this table with learning at the center. That is a good table. And we're going to engage bravely by asking for feedback and by really honoring that we have to do this together. And the hardest things we must do together. I talk about the table of learning in my book, Learn Forward, an invitation to the most important journeys of a child. And that's really where this metaphor, where we're all postured as a learner and we're all at this table together, that's where this metaphor arose. And we offer this invitation as a warm welcome, whether it's virtual or in person or hybrid, or just in an email or in a communication. We always want to warmly have that open-hearted stance of a learner. Kelly Kamek and Rebecca Middles, in their article for Getting Smart, the educational media house, they said this: equity-centered learning experiences value families as first teachers and collaborators. So this value of families and as first teachers and collaborators, this creating equity. So this is in their article, Emancipating Equity for Learning Justice. And this link will be in your package so that you have access to this and we can share it. So again, what are some ideas for you to engage bravely at the table of learning? Maybe you just need to ask with vulnerability and transparency some powerful questions around challenges that your learning community is facing. Maybe it's about attendance and tardiness. That's an issue across the board in education in so many contexts with leaders that I'm speaking with. They're saying, you know, Karine, we just really haven't recovered from these shutdowns and they keep happening. The continuity of education is so disrupted. So like, why can't we ask parents, what do you need? How can we make this better for you? How can we engage with you? How can we share with you the value of attendance and engagement and punctuality? How can we ask for feedback on our own work? How can we model that for teachers? How can we bravely consider connecting in focus groups or surveys or even outside parking lot coffees or teas? These are ways that I know you're already connecting. And I want you to know this third point, this third actionable point, which is community is a gift to receive. We don't have to create it. We don't even maybe have to cultivate it, like the title of this workshop said. We can receive it. And this comes from the work of Parker Palmer and 13 ways of looking at community. And he wrote this in 1998, and it could not be more true today. So as I share with you these 13 ways, and there's one extra one added, Palmer added at a bonus 14th way. As I share these with you, I encourage you to think which one stands out to you. In some ways, I've already shared the one that stands out to me, which is community is a gift to receive. What if we just relax into it? What if we just acknowledge that no matter what kinds of political conversations are happening in your community, no matter what kinds of divisions we might see, that truthfully, human beings want to feel connected. They want to belong. And we can hold those differences in our space. We can hold the paradoxes. Let's listen to Parker Palmer. He'll say it better than I do. And you think about what stands out to you in these 14 ideas and ways of looking at community. The first one is, we are embedded in community. We don't have to create it. We start there. And our schools are beautiful examples of community. Community is a gift to be received. We can cultivate a capacity for connectedness through contemplation. This is quiet. It's mindful. It's not manic and overwhelmed. It's present. Community is capacious enough to include strangers all the way to loved ones. You know what? I have a dinner planned with my family this upcoming weekend, and I will feel so at home. We'll laugh together. We'll talk deeply about real things. We'll eat, we'll play games, and this family space is filled with loved ones. Yet truly, community is everyone, from strangers to loved ones, from people who are different from me to loved ones. So I want to encourage us to think about community as capacious. Community embraces even those we perceive as enemy. There's a lot of this in schools right now. There's so much strife, and we can really see this binary, dualistic way of either or, black or white thinking. And that can be friend or enemy. And yet, community is transcendent. Community can include all of us. Hard stuff is not a death knell. It's a gateway to the real thing. Community and hierarchies are a both and in complex societies. Invite the gift of community within society's structures. So we have hierarchies, we have complexity, and we can still invite the gift of community. Community requires leadership, and leadership can emerge from anyone. We've already talked about this. Your teachers can be masterful leaders in creating and cultivating community. Leadership for community consists in creating, holding, and guarding a trustworthy space. Leadership creates a space in which you can do it for yourselves. You don't need to go outside of your network, your facility, your school, because leadership says the answers are in the building. We can create a space in which we can cultivate community. Holding a space in which people can discover their resources takes courage. And we know you're being brave. Remember that desert cracked soil? You're walking in those spaces, and it takes courage, and you are digging deep. And I just want you to hear one more time, your work is of infinite importance, and I want to encourage you. The temptation will be for leaders to fill the space themselves rather than create space. We've already talked a little bit about how can others lead in this way? How can we create room with vulnerability and transparency for parents, students, teachers to lead forward in the creation of relationships and connection in our schools? Leaders of community must be patient to unfold people's potential. Leadership will always break our hearts, and the breaking open of one's heart happens until the heart is spacious enough to hope with the reality of openness. Spacious enough to hope and the reality with openness. So the next step includes this action plan. And we're going to give you this action plan. It's a template, it's fillable, and we want you to think about cultivating community. We gave you 3 ideas centering around this main point that as you take on the posture of a learner, you are able to cultivate this connection amongst teachers, parents, and students. The 3 points were really around unfolding teacher leadership, bravely engaging at the table of learning, and community as a gift to receive. It already exists. Where are you seeing it embodied and manifesting? Your action plan is going to help you focus on that cultivation of community in practical and actionable ways in your school. I don't know what your school is, and I could tell you what worked in my school or schools that I know about, and yet you're leading in your context. Your in situ answers and ideas and brainstorms are so much more important than the actions or shortcuts you can find from other school leaders. So I invite you to think deeply about this action plan. Additionally, there is clarity coaching. I am here for you. And it might feel like another thing on your calendar and you're like, oh, I don't have time for someone to coach me. And yet principals save time by digesting your leadership issue and clarifying your next steps. I continue to be coached as well. and I know it works. So you can expand your team and expertise by hiring a coach. So consider, and then finally, we'll consider your inner journey and your development as a leader. So if you purchase this package in the next 24 hours, we will offer it to you at a really great discount. And furthermore, we'll send you a free signed hard copy of the Learn Forward book. So I love to hear from you. Email me at Kareen@learnforward.ca to book this incredible package, and we'll meet together. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to focus, and we'll circle back then in a second session, and we'll get you to focus and clarity. My last clarity coaching client said this in her email to me: "This time with you left me buoyant and so much more energized." Jessica is a great colleague, and she is from Chicago. She has fantastic school there, and she felt really energized by our time together. Also, the Manifesto Playbook, you can lead your school to craft your soul story. This is a wonderful way to cultivate community and cultivate your learning community. So please consider this opportunity. If you purchase today, you'll receive an additional 2 hours of coaching along with your Manifesto Playbook. So that's it. I do remain available to answer your questions. I am happy to do that either in this session or via email. So just feel free to email me and we'll connect there. School leaders, I wish you all the best in the next month, creating and cultivating learning communities.